Greetings everybody. I am Dr. Mudassir and I am going to speak few words about cellular signaling today. We have evolved from a unicellular organism to multicellular organism. In our body, all our cells have developed the mechanisms to communicate and modulate the behavior of one another. Yes, cells communicate. How do they communicate? The signal molecule binds to the receptor protein which generates a intracellular signaling molecule which alters the target proteins inside the cell which brings about a biological response. So what is this cell signal? Cell signaling by definition is a fundamental process by which specific information is transferred from one cell to another cell and from cell surface to the cytosol and ultimately to the nucleus, leading to changes in the gene expression. Before going into the depth of cell signaling, we should understand what is signaling. Yes, signaling are perturbations of cellular homeostasis, the internal environment of the cell, which could be a mechanical signal, electrical signal, thermal signal, or chemical signal. Majority of the cells communicate with each other with chemical signals. Now let us see what are the breakthrough discoveries in cell signaling. First, it started with the discovery and coining of the term hormone by Starling in 1905. Later, in 1921, Otto Loewi discovered a neurotransmitter, another cell signaling molecule, acetylcholine. In 1948, Claude Shannon proposed information theory, which is applied for explaining the processes of cell signaling. In 1950, cyclical AMP, Sutherland was awarded Nobel Prize for his discovery of cyclical AMP. Much later, in 1987, the G protein coupled receptor which generates that second messenger was discovered by Goodman Gilman and Rodwell. Subsequently, in 2000, Sir Candle was awarded Nobel Prize for his discoveries in signaling pathway in nervous system. And in recent times, 2019, Kaisa Lete from Karolinska Institute was awarded Nobel Prize for his discoveries related to hippo tumor suppressor pathway. Now let us see what are the theories which explain the cell signaling. This cell signaling is based on information theory, which is application of the theory proposed by Claude Shannon in a paper on mathematical theory of communication. In this theory, the probabilities and stochasticities of ligand and receptor interactions, based on which the signaling pathway mechanisms are explained. It explains that, or it states that cell signaling is the fundamental process by which specific information is transferred from the cell surface to the cytosol and ultimately to the nucleus, leading to changes in gene expression. Now, moving on to the methods of study, or how the cell signaling pathways are studied from times memorial to present. In recent times, we are using imaging techniques like correlative light and electron microscopy, X-ray crystallography, fluorescence imaging, spectroscopic studies, which include TICS, that is temporal image correlated spectroscopy, and immunoprecipitation studies, patch clamp technique, and flow cytometry. In vivo and in vitro studies are done by real-time analysis using live cell fluorescent reporters. Now let us see what is the analogy of cell signaling. Basically, the cell signaling is a cell cybernetic system which consists of a detector or a sensor, a transducer, and an amplifier. The steps involved in cell signaling are recognition of the signal, transduction of extracellular message into intracellular signal or production of second messenger, transmission of second messenger signal to appropriate effector is the third step. Next is modulation of the effector inside the cell and the response. This modulation of effector is done generally by adding a phosphate moiety using kinases. And last step is termination of the response. This is done by deactivating the effector by removing the phosphate moieties attached to it during its activation. The other method by which termination is done by degradation of effectors, which happens in the prostaglandin second messenger pathways. Next, moving on to how the signal is relayed from one cell to another cell. Extracellular signaling the cell signaling has two components, the extracellular component and the intracellular component. Extracellularly, how the signals are conveyed, let us see. First is autocrine, paracrine, endocrine and juxtacrine. Juxtacrine is the relay of signal from one cell to another by attachment. When the two cells are attached, the attaching point might be having anchoring proteins, which could be, for example, a gap junction. A gap junction is a pore through which free flow of ions can occur from one cell to another cell, which happens in cardiac myocyte, which helps in passage of electrical impulses from one cardiac myocyte to another cardiac myocyte. The other examples are ephrine receptor, ephrine ligand, which binds with EPH receptor present on the adjacent neurons or endothelial cells, which promotes the growth and development of nerves and blood vessels. Other forms of communication by direct contact, other examples for direct contact chemical signaling is presence of beta catenins, which modulate the shape and size of the cell. Now let us see the other extracellular communicating modalities. First is autocrine. Autocrine cell signaling is a type of cell signaling in which the signaling molecule released from the cell acts on the same cell from which it is released. The commonest example and present research is being studied is the cancer cells. The cancer cells generally they communicate by releasing the signaling molecules which are growth factors, which promote their own growth, which communicate by autocrine manner. Next is paracrine signaling. In paracrine signaling, the signaling molecule is released into interstitium, which acts on the target cell present in the near vicinity. Third one is endocrine signaling. In endocrine signaling, the signaling molecule is released into the blood vessel and it travels to a distant place to act on a target tissue. Intracellular component of the cellular signaling is the second messenger system. Now moving on to the signal transduction. What is the signal transduction? By definition, it is the biochemical process by which cell translate extracellular signal originating from the environment into a specific response. This cell signal transduction is mainly done by receptor. Now receptors are of two types, surface receptors and intracellular receptors. This classification is based on the penetration ability of the signaling molecule. If the signaling molecule is hydrophilic, which cannot penetrate the cell membrane, they have their receptors on the cell surface, whereas hydrophobic or lipophilic molecules or very small molecules which can easily penetrate the plasma membrane, they have their receptors either in the cytosol or in the nucleus. So receptors are basically classified into surface receptors and intracellular receptors. Intracellular receptors could be nuclear receptors or cytosolic receptors. First, we'll discuss about surface receptors. Surface receptors are three major classes: ligand gated ion channels, G protein coupled receptors, and catalytic receptors. First, ligand gated ion channels. When the ligand binds with the receptor present on the cell, the ion channel either it is open or closed. Next type of surface receptor is G protein coupled receptor. Here on the right side you can see this is the G protein coupled receptor, which is a large transmembrane protein. It has got a extracellular protein part which binds with the ligand, an intracellular tail, and a transmembrane part which binds about 7 times in the plasma membrane. The intracellular tail is again attached to a G protein which has 3 subunits: alpha, beta, and gamma. When the ligand binds with this G protein coupled receptor on extracellular site, the alpha subunit phosphorylates, which binds with enzyme present in the cell membrane, which could be adenylyl cyclase or phosphodiesterase or phospholipase. I repeat, it could be adenylyl cyclase, phosphodiesterase, or phospholipase. When this phospholipase is activated, it causes production of second messenger. Okay, based on second messenger produced, G protein coupled receptor are classified into 4 types. G protein coupled receptor linked to cyclical AMP second messenger system, G protein coupled receptor linked to cyclical GMP second messenger system, and G protein coupled receptor linked to inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol. There is one more classification for G protein coupled receptor in which they are termed as GS, which have stimulatory effect on cyclical AMP. Another one is GI, which inhibits the levels of cyclical AMP or reduces the level of cyclical AMP. And there is one more which is called as GQ, which activates cyclical phospholipase. So GQ activates phospholipases, GS activates adenylyl cyclase or phosphodiesterase. Now we will see how G protein coupled receptor linked to cyclical GMP acts. The best example is the retinal cells. In the retinal cells, particularly rods, when the light falls, you can see here when the light falls, this G protein coupled receptor which is coupled to phosphodiesterase is activated. When it is activated, the phosphodiesterase enzyme is activated, which reduces the cyclical GMP levels. When cyclical GMP levels are reduced, the sodium ion channel which allows the cation to enter the retinal cell or photoreceptor cell is closed. That's how when the light falls on the rods, they are bleached and they are not activated. That is the reason why when we enter in a bright area, rods are deactivated by reducing the cyclical GMP by activation of phosphodiesterase, which is again activated by G protein coupled receptor in response to falling of light on it. And when we enter a dark area, the reverse things happen and the ion channel is open, which causes the moving on to next, the G protein coupled receptor linked to inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol second messenger system, and also arachidonic acid derivatives. In this, when the ligand binds to the G protein coupled receptor on extracellular site, phospholipase or phospholipase C is activated, which cleaves the phospholipids present in the membrane for the formation of inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol. This is how it acts. The diacylglycerol released in this process, it also activates the enzymes required for for production of arachidonic acid derivatives like cyclooxygenase, epoxyoxygenase and lipooxygenase. Now moving on to catalytic receptors. There are mainly four. Number one, guanylyl cyclase, which is activated by atrial natriuretic peptide and nitric oxide. The main biological effect produced by activation of this catalytic receptors is natriuresis and vasodilation. One important component of this catalytic receptor is, you can see here, they are dimers. They consist of dimers and there are transmembrane proteins. The extracellular component has binding site for the ligand, and intracellular component of this transmembrane catalytic receptor acts as an enzyme. When the ligand binds to the extracellular ligand binding site, this enzyme, intracellular enzyme, enzymatic area of catalytic receptor is activated and it phosphorylates the intracellular second messenger proteins and brings about a biological effect. In case of ANP and nitric oxide, it causes vasodilation and natriuresis. The other are serine threonine kinases, receptor serine threonine kinases. Activation of this serine threonine kinases is done by following substrates or following ligands like TGF beta, inhibin, activin, morphogenic protein. Basically, these are the ligands which are involved in embryogenesis. Next type of catalytic protein is receptor tyrosine kinase, are also called as RTK, which is activated by epithelial growth factor, platelet derived growth factor, vascular endothelial growth factor, insulin like growth factor, fibroblast growth factor and nerve cell growth factor. And last but not the least, even the insulin has a receptor, insulin's receptor is tyrosine kinase receptor. Next is tyrosine phosphatase. Now moving on to intracellular receptors, which are present either in cytoplasm or nucleus. The receptor for steroidal hormones or steroidal ligands are present inside the cytoplasm. Upon binding of steroid with the cytoplasmic receptor, it moves or it migrates into the nucleus, where it brings about transcription and translation of proteins, which bring about a biological effect. Here in case of aldosterone, it causes incorporation of epithelial sodium channels, which increases this sodium entry into the cell. Next is nuclear receptors. Nuclear receptors receptors for thyroxine are present in the nucleus directly. Thyroxine easily or freely diffuses into each and every cell of our body and binds with the receptor present inside the nucleus directly on the chromosomes, which causes transcription and translation and brings about a biological effect which mainly affects all the metabolic pathways, leading to increase in basal metabolic rate. Next is the signal amplification, the third step of cybernetics, cellular cybernetics, that is signal amplification or second messenger system. The first second messenger system is G protein coupled receptor cyclical AMP second messenger system. In this, you can see here, when the hormone binds with the receptor, it activates adenylyl cyclase, which converts ATP into cyclical AMP. This cyclical AMP activates protein kinase A, which phosphorylates several proteins, which could be enzymes, and it could also be a CREB protein. CREB protein is it directly enters the nucleus and activates transcription factor, which causes transcription and translation of proteins. So as you can see, all the second messenger systems acting, they mainly act on the nucleus of the cell, and their target proteins are transcription factors. We will be discussing in the later part of the discussion. Next is IP3-DAG or inositol triphosphate. Inositol triphosphate is activated by phospholipase, which acts on the phospholipids present in the membrane. Now, inositol triphosphate formed, it opens the calcium channel, channel present in the endoplasmic reticulum, which causes the extensive release of calcium, which binds with calcium binding protein, which is called as calmodulin. You can see here this calmodulin again binds with calmodulin dependent protein kinases. Commonest calmodulin binding dependent protein kinases is MLCK or myosin light chain kinases, which are present in the smooth muscle cells. That is why this second messenger system is commonly activated by adrenergic receptors, which are present on the smooth muscle cells. Okay, so in the smooth muscle cells, when the adrenaline acts on its receptor, it causes production of inositol triphosphate, which increases the calcium levels, which binds with the calcium calmodulin, and calmodulin dependent protein kinase, that is myosin light chain kinases, are activated, which brings about the modulation of smooth muscle cells in the viscera. Another second messenger you can see here is diacylglycerol. This diacylglycerol, it either activates protein kinase C, which phosphorylates several enzymes and metabolic pathways. It also activates arachidonic acid. One of the effector proteins activated by diacylglycerol via protein kinase C is myrostoylated alanine rich C kinase, which is also called as MARK. MARK basically it causes cross linking of actins. Now, when diacylglycerol is formed by action of hormone, the protein kinase C phosphorylates this marks. When these marks are phosphorylated, they dislodge from the cross-linked actins. That's how when marks are phosphorylated, the actins are uncross-linked and the shape of the cell distorts. Shape and size of the cell is modulated by diacylglycerol via Mark's proteins. Next is G protein couple receptor and arachidonic acid derivatives. Direct pathway is activated here. The arachidonic acid derivatives are formed by direct pathway and indirect pathway. In direct pathway, when the extracellular ligand binds like serotonin, glutamate, fibroblast growth factor beta, or INF alpha, when these bind with the G protein coupled receptor, which is GQ type, it causes the release of gamma and beta subunits. These gamma and beta subunits, they bind with phospholipase A2. Phospholipase A2. Now this phospholipase A2, you can see it directly phosphorylates cyclooxygenase, lipoxygenase and epoxyoxygenase, which generate prostaglandins and leukotrienes and other HETT and ETTs. Another pathway for activation of arachidonic acid derivatives is indirect pathway. This indirect pathway is activated by interleukin 1 and 2, TNF alpha and interferon alpha. In this pathway, extracellular ligands like IL-3, TNF alpha and interferon alpha, when they bind, it activates phospholipase C, which causes production of diacylglycerol. This diacylglycerol initiates the production of arachidonic acid derivatives. These arachidonic acid derivatives are mainly concerned with inflammatory responses. Now coming to tyrosine kinase, which is an example of catalytic receptor. In this catalytic receptor, it is activated by ligand binding of ligand on the extracellular site, which directly activates the enzymatic site and enzymatic moiety of this catalytic receptor, which is present inside the cell. On activation, it phosphorylates GRB2 proteins, which again phosphorylate SOS. These SOS, they activate RAS proteins by phosphorylation. This RAS proteins phosphorylate RAF proteins, which activates or which phosphorylates MEK proteins. MEK proteins. These MEK proteins, they phosphorylate MAP kinases or microtubule associated phosphate phosphokinases, protein kinases or phosphokinases. These MAP kinases, they enter the nucleus. You can see here, they enter the nucleus and they bind with the transcription factors present there and cause transcription and translation of various proteins which are required for growth and development. That is why catalytic receptors are said to be associated with the pathways related to growth and development and differentiation. Now coming to what are the targets of this signaling pathways. Main target examples I will be telling. The steroid family, the target is PPARs. Transcription factors activated by internal signals. For them, the transcription factors targets are P53, SREB, orphans. Few examples I am stating. And for nuclear, for G protein coupled receptors and catalytic receptors, the target transcription factors are CREB, STAT or NFAT. Now coming to factors influencing cell signaling. What could be? Number 1 is concentration of the ligand. Number 2, sensitivity of the ligand. Other factors are compartmentalization. So the signaling molecule, the receptor and its intracellular second messenger system is compartmentalized. How are they compartmentalized? Let us see. First and foremost, the receptor along with its intracellular signaling system is called as signalosome, which is compartmentalized with the help of lipid rafts present in the plasma membrane. Next is direction of the signal, which is decided by the cytoskeleton of the cell and molecular motors, which are dynein and kinesin, which help in movement of second messenger system in a particular direction. So that is how the cell signaling is influenced by molecular motors. Next, coming to an entity called as downregulation. What is this downregulation? Downregulation is a phenomena of reduction in response due to increased hormone concentration for a prolonged period, or prolonged binding of hormone to target tissue is called downregulation. This downregulation is brought about by following mechanisms. Number one is receptor sequestration, in which the receptor is sequestrated into the cell, into endosome, and it is also degraded with the help of lysosome. And there might even be processes which inactivate these receptors, and also the signaling proteins, inactivation of signaling proteins, intracellular signaling proteins, and also production of inhibitory proteins inside the cell like phosphatases. So that's all about cell signaling. But what is the future? What could be the future for the researching scientists? The future is the further studies could be done in following ways. Now we know that there are multiple pathways, multiple second messenger pathways acting inside the cell. What has to be discovered now, or what still has to be discovered now, is how one pathway is working when another pathway is simultaneously functionary. And what we have to discover is how is the interaction between the more than one pathways. for bringing about a biological effect, and how much time one pathway is acting and for how much time the other pathway is acting, and how are they regulated, how are their timings regulated, in what way. That is the future for the studies of cell signaling. That's so all. And at last but not the least, I would like to acknowledge my resources, that is Molecular Biology of Cell by Alberts, 6th edition, and 2nd edition Boron, an article written by Nair Chauhan et al., that is Conceptual Evolution of Cellular Signaling. If you have any queries, please put your questions in the comment section of this video. Thank you.